Hey, you ever feel like flirting is this total enigma? Like, everyone else got the secret decoder ring, and you're just standing there trying to figure out if that wink meant, come over here,
Or
or...
I have something in my eye. Yeah,
Oh,
totally. It's such a universal experience, isn't it?
right, that feeling of navigating this subtle dance where the rules seem, I don't know, completely unwritten.
Exactly.
Well, hold on to your hats, because in this deep dive, we're going to try and crack the code.
Let's do it.
We're diving headfirst into the science of flirting and attraction. We've got a stack of fascinating research, and our mission today is really to pull back the curtain and see what's really going on when those sparks hopefully fly.
Yeah, get underneath the surface.
We're all about clear insights here, no complicated jargon, so you'll walk away knowing, what makes flirting tick.
Absolutely. And for someone like you who's keen on getting the good stuff quickly and thoroughly, well, we've sifted through the scientific studies on flirting and attraction,
Okay.
the research on how we communicate without even speaking the nonverbals, what the online dating world has maybe taught us, and even some of the ethical things to keep in mind just to make sure it's all good, respectful fun.
So just the core stuff, the essential knowledge.
That's the plan.
So consider this your shortcut to becoming maybe flirting fluent. We want you to understand how flirting actually works, like what are the signals you should be sending, what should you be looking for in return, and ultimately, how can we all create more genuine connections?
Sounds good.
Okay, let's jump in. What exactly is flirting, scientifically speaking? Is there like a definition?
There is. Scientifically, flirting is seen as that playful, often kind of indirect way we let someone know we're romantically or maybe sexually interested.
Okay, playful and indirect.
Yeah, it's usually more about those subtle nonverbal cues than, explicitly saying, hey, I'm attracted to you.
Mm-hmm.
Think of that old saying, speaking in little flowers. It kind of captures that gentle, suggestive nature of it.
Speaking in little flowers, I love that. So it's not a direct hit, more like dropping hints.
Exactly. Dropping hints with a smile, maybe.
Right.
And those hints can have different purposes. Flirting can be, the first little step towards something more.
Okay.
It's how we test the waters, see if there's potential. Are they funny? Intelligent? Do we, click?
Makes sense.
It can also keep this spark alive in existing relationships, be a fun little game in itself, or honestly, sometimes just give you a nice little confidence boost.
That makes total sense. It's got layers. But how is that different from just being friendly or something more upfront, like trying to seduce someone?
Yeah.
Or even old-fashioned courtship?
That's a great point to clarify. Flirting is generally lighter and more exploratory than seduction. Seduction usually has a clearer goal, maybe winning someone over or starting something intimate.
Right, more direct.
Yeah. And while flirting can definitely be part of finding a partner, courtship, historically speaking, was a much more structured traditional process,
Unfair.
often aimed specifically at marriage.
Right, like in period dramas. All those carefully planned introductions and like very proper interactions.
Precisely, yeah. And in many modern Western societies, those formal rituals have largely faded away. It's become much more individual, more informal.
Okay.
So while the basic human drivers of attraction might still be there, how we actually do flirting and how we interpret it has definitely changed with these cultural shifts.
Okay, so flirting is the subtle opening, the initial feeler. But what actually makes us feel that little thing of attraction in the first place? What are the core psychological triggers?
Well, there's a whole mix of psychological factors at play.
Mm.
Physical attractiveness is often the first thing that catches our eye,
Sure.
and things like facial symmetry, certain physical markers can be part of that initial draw.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, though, we tend to be drawn to people who are on a similar, quote-unquote, level of attractiveness to ourselves, the matching hypothesis.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So the takeaway here isn't really to limit yourself, but maybe to understand why initial connections often form with those who seem, similarly attractive.
Okay, noted. Keeps things a little more realistic, maybe. What else fires up those attraction engines?
Proximity and familiarity are surprisingly powerful. Just being around someone more often can make us like them more. That's the mere exposure effect.
Right, just seeing them around.
Yeah. Then there's similarity. We tend to click with people who share our values, our interests, maybe the way they see the world.
That makes sense. Finding common ground.
Exactly. And here's a big one. Reciprocity. We like people who like us.
Ah, yes. That feels intuitive.
It really is. Showing interest is often the most effective way to generate interest back. Scarcity can also sometimes make someone seem more appealing, the whole playing hard to get idea.
Yeah.
Although that can get a bit complicated. We can touch on that maybe.
Okay.
And finally, just positive vibes. We're drawn to people who make us feel good when we're around them. Simple as that sometimes.
Okay, that's a lot of pieces in the puzzle. Now let's zoom in on that subtle communication you were talking about. The nonverbals. How powerful are they, really, when it comes to flirting?
Oh, they're absolutely crucial. Nonverbal signals often make up the majority of what's actually being communicated in a flirtatious exchange.
Wow, the majority.
Yeah, it's the unspoken language of attraction.
Silent, but definitely saying something. So what are some of the key nonverbal signals of interest we should be, looking out for? Or maybe using ourselves?
Okay, eye contact is huge.
Right.
Sustained mutual eye contact can create a really strong connection. But also, playful glances, that quick look away and then back with a smile. Yeah. Super effective.
The glance away, glance back. Got it.
And what's fascinating here is that eye contact actually triggers the release of oxytocin and dopamine in our brains.
No way.
Yeah, chemicals linked to bonding and pleasure, even pupil dilation. When your pupils get bigger, when you see something you really like, that's related to this process and can be a subtle, often unconscious sign of attraction.
Wow, okay. The eyes really do tell a story. What other body language should we be paying attention to? Smiling, of course. A genuine smile. The kind that crinkles the corners of your eyes. The Duchenne smile that's really warm and inviting.
The real smile, not the forced one.
Exactly. A little playful smirk, maybe just on one side of the mouth, can add a touch of intrigue, too.
Okay.
Posture and how someone moves also says a lot. A confident, upright posture signals openness. Calm, smooth movements are generally more attractive than, say, fidgeting nervously.
Right, less twitching.
Yeah. An open body position, not crossing your arms or legs, leaning slightly towards the person shows engagement. Even the direction their feet are pointing can be a subconscious indicator of interest.
Feet pointing? Seriously?
Seriously. And get this, it's been observed that sometimes when women are laughing and attracted to someone, their feet might make little movements away from their body.
Huh. Okay, good posture, genuine smiles, open body, and foot action. This is getting seriously interesting. What about when someone starts to, copy your movements? Mirroring. Mirroring. Yes,
yeah.
That's a powerful sign of connection. It's when someone unconsciously or sometimes consciously starts to imitate your body language, your tone of voice, even the words you're using.
Okay.
It builds rapport and creates this feeling of being on the same wavelength of understanding.
So if I lean in and they lean in, that could be a good sign.
It definitely could be, yeah.
Yeah.
And, there are actually different flavors of flirting, each with its own set of nonverbal cues.
Oh, like what?
Well, researcher Jeffrey Hall identified 5 main flirt styles: physical, traditional, sincere, polite, and playful.
5 styles. Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, someone flirting in a sincere way might make a lot of direct eye contact and be less fidgety. Someone using a more traditional male style might be more likely to initiate physical closeness, like leaning in.
Fascinating. It's like there's a whole silent movie playing out. Is there a kind of order to these signals? Do you start with a glance and then escalate?
Absolutely. Yeah, nonverbal flirting tends to follow a bit of a staircase pattern.
Yeah.
You usually start with those lower risk signals like eye contact and smiles. Right. And then if things feel right, if there's that mutual comfort, you might move on to more intimate signals, like maybe a light touch.
Right. Got to read the room.
Exactly. It's all about respecting that unspoken intimacy balance. You don't just jump straight to trying to hold hands.
Right. Definitely don't go in for the hug on first meeting. And you mentioned mirroring isn't just something you do, but also something you look for.
Yes, exactly. Mirroring can be a deliberate way to try and build connection, sure. But when you notice someone mirroring you, especially unconsciously, that's often a genuine indicator that they're feeling a connection, that they're engaged with you.
So it's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. If you see it happening, it might be a good sign, maybe a time to take things a little further. If you're not seeing any mirroring at all, maybe hold back a bit.
Okay, so we've got the eyes, the smile, the posture, the mirroring. What about touch? That feels like a pretty significant move in the flirting playbook.
It is. It definitely is. Subtle, respectful touch, like a light touch on the arm, maybe the shoulder or hand, can definitely increase attraction and create a sort of physical link.
Okay.
But the key words there are subtle and respectful.
Right. Crucial.
You need to escalate very gradually and pay close attention to how the other person reacts. You start with those socially acceptable areas, upper arm, shoulder, and see how it's received.
So a brief, friendly touch on the upper arm during a laugh, maybe. Something like that.
That could be a perfect example, yeah.
Okay.
especially if the context feels right and it feels natural. And this links directly to the idea of personal space. We all have our own invisible bubble, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What does the science say about those different invisible boundaries?
Well, anthropologist Edward Hall talked about these different zones: intimate space, personal space, social space, and public space.
Right.
And respectfully closing that distance, moving from social maybe into personal space, can signal growing intimacy. But what feels respectful really depends on cultural norms.
Ugh, culture.
Aha.
Okay, knew that was coming. It always adds a twist, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How big of a role does culture play in how we flirt?
A really significant one, yeah. While some basic emotional expressions might be pretty universal, like a smile for happiness, mostly how we interpret many flirtatious behaviors can be very different depending on where you grew up or where you are in the world.
Oh,
Think about eye contact again. In some cultures, like many Western ones, direct eye contact shows you're engaged, interested, confident.
right.
In others, particularly some Asian or Latin American cultures, prolonged direct eye contact might be seen as aggressive, disrespectful, or maybe too forward, especially between genders or different statuses.
Okay, that's a big difference.
Huge. And the amount of personal space people are comfortable with that varies massively. How often and where it's okay to touch someone, even the meaning of certain gestures, it can all vary a lot.
So something that's seen as a clear flirtatious signal in, say, the U.S. could be totally misunderstood somewhere else, or even offensive.
Absolutely. For example, in some more contact cultures, think Southern Europe, Latin America, Middle East, people tend to stand much closer when they're talking, touch more frequently. It's normal.
Yeah.
In many Northern European or East Asian cultures, people generally prefer more personal space. A touch that feels friendly in one place might feel intrusive in another. Even a smile, which seems universal, right? Yeah.
Well, its interpretation in a flirting context can vary. Being aware of these cultural differences is so important for avoiding awkward moments, or worse, and just being respectful.
Wow. This is fascinating. It's amazing how much goes into this without us even thinking about it consciously most of the time. Okay, so we've looked at the silent language, the body language. But what about the actual words we use? What's the secret to, like, good verbal flirting?
Verbal flirting is really all about using conversation in a way that signals interest and creates connection, but again, often subtly. It's about how you start talking, how you keep the conversation going, and maybe the kind of energy you bring to it.
Okay, give me an example of a good opening line. Forget the cheesy cliches. What actually works, according to the research?
Well, research suggests that often the most effective openers are actually quite simple and genuine, delivered with a positive sort of giving energy.
Giving energy, okay.
Yeah, like not trying to take something, but offering connection. Something simple like, hey, who are you? You look great. I'm your name. Just direct, but friendly. There's even that 3-second rule some people talk about.
Yeah, what's that?
It's just the idea that if you see someone you're interested in, don't overthink it for ages. Try to say hello within about 3 seconds. It avoids that awkward staring face.
Ah, okay. Rip the Band-Aid off. I like it. Giving energy. I like that way of putting it, too. It's about your intention behind the words.
Exactly.
So what about keeping the conversation flowing? How do you avoid it feeling like a job interview? Question after question.
Right. Yeah, you definitely don't want to just fire off a list of questions. The focus should be more on creating a little spark, maybe sharing your own thoughts and feelings, making statements rather than just asking questions.
Okay, statements. Interesting.
Yeah, and paying attention to how you're saying things, your tone, your enthusiasm. It's often less about what you say and more about the feeling behind it. And crucially, what you're saying needs to match your body language.
Right, congruence.
That's the word. Congruence is key. A witty remark doesn't really land if you're saying it while looking bored or turned away. The words and the nonverbal cues need to line up.
Got it. Okay. What about compliments? Are they always a good idea? Or can they backfire?
Well-timed and specific compliments can be really powerful. They show you're paying attention.
Specific, okay.
Yeah. Try to compliment someone's character, maybe their efforts or something unique about them, rather than just focusing solely on their appearance. Though a sincere compliment on appearance can work too, if it feels right. Getting a nice, genuine compliment can actually release those feel-good chemicals in the brain, like serotonin and oxytocin. And often, commenting on someone's effort, wow, you worked really hard on that, can be more meaningful than just praising the outcome. Quality over quantity, too.
So instead of just, you're good looking, maybe something like, That's a really thoughtful way of looking at things. Or, I love the passion you have for that hobby.
Exactly. Those kinds of compliments show you're seeing more than just the surface.
Okay, I like that. Now let's talk about humor. Everyone loves someone who can make them laugh, right? That's got to be good for flirting.
Absolutely. Humor is consistently shown to be a very effective flirting tool. It creates a positive atmosphere, shared good feelings,
Yeah.
which helps people bond. It signals intelligence and social skill, too, especially, research suggests, for men looking for longer-term relationships. Women often rate a sense of humor highly.
Okay. What about playful teasing? Is that a good way to flirt, or is it just asking for trouble?
Ugh. Teasing. It can be tricky. Playful teasing, when it's genuinely lighthearted and fun, can definitely create a bit of a spark, add some challenge, make things more interesting.
Yeah.
But the key is lighthearted and fun. You have to be really careful that it doesn't come across as mean-spirited or critical, or that it hits a sensitive spot.
Yeah.
You need to read the reaction carefully.
Right.
If the other person seems uncomfortable at all, even slightly, you need to stop immediately and maybe even apologize. There's a big difference between playful banter and just being negative or trying to establish dominance.
So it's a delicate dance, just like the flirting itself. What else makes for good verbal flirting? Beyond the opening, the compliments, the humor?
Active listening is just fundamental. It's not strictly verbal output, but it's crucial for the conversation.
How so?
Showing genuine interest in what the other person is saying, asking follow-up questions that show you heard them, maybe summarizing what they've said to check you're understanding it, shows that you're truly engaged, that you value what they're sharing.
Right. Makes them feel heard.
Exactly. And then there's sharing a little bit about yourself, authentic self-disclosure. Not oversharing right away. That could be off-putting.
Yeah, TMI territory.
Right. But gradually letting them get to know the real you. This builds trust and intimacy. Interestingly, research suggests that when you first meet someone, the person who asks more questions and listens attentively can actually be liked more initially.
Oh, really? The listener has an advantage at first.
It seems so. But as you get to know each other, it needs to become more balanced. A two-way street of sharing and listening. Reciprocity again.
Okay, we've covered so much ground. This is great. But you mentioned earlier a top 8 proven methods to foster attraction. Can you lay those on us, like a summary of the best practices?
All right, let's distill it down. Based on everything we've discussed from the research, here are 8 key ways to sort of foster attraction effectively and ethically.
Okay, number 1.
1, cultivate and project authentic self-confidence.
Yeah.
This isn't about being loud or arrogant, okay? It's about having a genuine belief in your own worth that shines through in how you carry yourself, your body language, how you communicate. Avoid seeming needy. Confidence signals capability, stability.
Got it. Real confidence, not fake bravado. Number 2.
2, master those nonverbal signals. Really pay attention to using and interpreting eye contact effectively, smiling genuinely, being mindful of your posture, mirroring appropriately, managing personal space respectfully. And always remember those potential cultural differences we talked about.
Be fluent in body language. Okay, 3.
3, create positive emotional resonance through humor and playfulness. Use genuine humor, laugh together. Use lighthearted, respectful teasing if it fits the dynamic to create an enjoyable, light atmosphere. But always make sure the humor is kind, never at someone else's expense.
Keep it light, keep it fun. Number 4.
4, build connection through active listening and authentic, gradual self-disclosure. Show real interest in what they're saying, ask good questions, and share bits about yourself in return, reciprocally, to build trust. Don't unload your entire life story in the first 5 minutes.
Pace yourself. Got it. 5.
5, demonstrate value by balancing similarity and uniqueness. Find those genuine shared interests, values, experiences that builds comfort, but also let your own unique, attractive qualities and passions shine through. Be authentically you, not just a copy.
Find common ground, but still be yourself.
Okay.
6.
6, initiate and react based on reciprocity. Pay attention to their signals of interest. Are they leaning in? Asking questions back. Mirroring. If they seem engaged, invest more in the interaction. But if they're giving closed-off signals or not reciprocating, respect that. Don't push it or force it.
Read the signs and respond accordingly. Makes sense. 7.
7, be assertive and respectful in setting boundaries and intentions. Communicate clearly and confidently about your needs and boundaries, and crucially, respect their boundaries completely. Taking initiative is often attractive, but it should always be respectful. Assertiveness is not the same as being aggressive or pushy. Consent is key. Always.
Clear, confident, respectful. Good. And number 8.
And number 8, navigate the interaction with emotional intelligence and adaptability. Try to recognize and understand your own emotions and theirs. Be sensitive to the mood and the context. Adapt your flirting style based on the situation and how they're reacting. Empathy and flexibility are really key here.
That's a fantastic summary. It really boils down to being genuine, observant, communicative, and respectful, doesn't it?
Pretty much. It's less about tricks and more about connection.
Now, we can't ignore how much things have changed with technology. How has flirting evolved in our digital world? Online dating, social media.
Oh, the digital age has definitely shaken things up massively.
Yeah.
Online platforms offer some clear advantages, right? Well, it's often easier to make that initial contact.
Yeah.
The barrier feels lower. There's maybe less immediate face-to-face fear of rejection. It can empower some people to be a bit bolder than they might be offline.
Yeah, I can see that.
Plus, so many relationships now start online.
Yeah.
And you have access to a much, much wider circle of potential partners than you'd ever meet just in your daily life.
That's the plus side. What about the potential downsides? I know I've heard people talk about how online dating can feel a bit impersonal or overwhelming.
You're right. There are definitely downsides. There's a potential risk of maybe losing some of those crucial offline social skills if we rely too much on communicating through screens. Reading nuance is harder online.
True.
The sheer number of options online, what some call the paradox of choice, can sometimes make it harder to really commit to or invest in one person. Always wondering if someone better is just a swipe away.
Yeah, the endless scroll.
Exactly. And there's definitely the risk of misrepresentation, people not being entirely genuine in their profiles, or even using manipulative tactics like canned lines or playing games through text.
And what about how it affects our self-esteem? Social media especially can feel like everyone is putting their best, most perfect, filtered selves out there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a big concern. Research suggests that young people, particularly, can sometimes experience more anxiety around social interaction and feel immense pressure to create this flawless online persona.
Yeah.
Constantly seeing curated, idealized images can fuel insecurity and social comparison, especially maybe for girls, given societal pressures. While it's easy and tempting to present an idealized version of yourself online, the danger is if it creates a huge disconnect with who you are in real life. That can lead to disappointment and mistrust down the line.
So navigating digital flirting requires a whole different set of awareness, maybe even more caution. Any quick tips for doing it well, or at least ethically?
Clarity is really important in digital communication, maybe even more so than face-to-face, because you lose tone and body language. Use emojis thoughtfully, perhaps, to help convey your tone, but don't rely on them entirely.
Okay.
Try to create an online presence that's authentic but still intriguing. Give a genuine sense of who you are, and aim for a balanced amount of messaging, not too overwhelming, flooding their inbox, but also not too distant or playing games. Be responsive. Be real.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive, seriously illuminating. So to bring it all together, what are the main things you really want our listeners to remember about the science of flirting?
I think the key takeaway is that flirting isn't just some mysterious talent you're born with or not. It's actually a process. It's guided by understandable psychological principles, and it's expressed through both what we say and, maybe even more powerfully, how we say it non-verbally.
Right, it's learnable, understandable.
Exactly. And ultimately, building real connection based on mutual respect, genuine interest, and being authentic is what makes it work best and feel best for everyone involved.
So it's not about memorizing a list of tricks or lines, but really about understanding the dynamics of how we connect with each other as humans.
Precisely. And by understanding these dynamics, hopefully, you can approach the world of attraction, dating, even just social interaction with a bit more confidence, more awareness, and maybe less anxiety.
That's incredibly empowering. Okay, so for our final thought, something for you to chew on after this. Consider how understanding these principles of flirting and attraction can actually boost your overall social intelligence.
Interesting angle.
Yeah, think about how being able to signal interest clearly, respectfully, and maybe more importantly, read the signals of others accurately, how valuable that skill is in all sorts of interactions, right? Not just romantic ones, friendships, work relationships.
Absolutely. It's fundamentally about communication and connection.
Exactly. It's about connecting with people on a deeper, more understanding level, whatever the context might be, a life skill, really.